You all for watching. Hello everybody, I'm Mike the Man. Today I will do things a little bit differently, and I will do them the way that it comes to me, because I have now pinned on my X account at Firetown the 3 pieces of, call it what you will, indicators, convictions, results of my work. What happened that particular night. And the one thing that I need to make very clear, I do not think there was premeditation. However, there is a very fine line between premeditation and whatever else you may want to call it, negligence. Because if somebody grows so cold towards a person that they don't care how much medicine, how much sleep aid they give to them, because they just don't care if they're gonna be alright or not, or if they're gonna live or die, then what do you call it when you get to that point? What do you call it when a celebrity, one time he was in Dominican Republic and he crashed his car into ongoing traffic. He pulled out of the parking lot. He was high and drunk and just bam, right into a bus and died. I think 1998 or something like that it happened. Falco was his name. Rock Me Amadeus, that guy. Is that a suicide or not? When you get to the point where your life is so unimportant to you that you don't look left, you don't look right, you just crash ahead. So, was there a big plan for them to get rid of Sebastian Riders? I don't think so. Everything, all language, I think, indicates otherwise. I think she over-medicated him, he fell out of bed, and from there, well, that has not been determined yet. Chris Proudfoot knows. He will tell you once he gets in trouble and cuts a deal. I think the Barrow success also know what happened. But there's a big difference between what happened that caused what resulted in the transport or the removal of a body and the actual removal of the body. Who was involved in the second part? I don't know. It could be quite a few people. Quite a few people are in the know. That's what several statements from several people are indicating. And I need to make it also very clear now that there are people who have an agenda and they want you to think Sebastian is alive. I'm not talking about Seth, I'm talking about people who want to cut a deal with Netflix, who in public combat each other, and the idiots are following these people and tuning into all of their little pretend fights. And it is more lucrative for them to have people think Sebastian is coming home than having to figure out what happened to a body, who was responsible for it. People want success and hope. And they don't care if it's true or not. Or rather, they don't get busy investigating anything. So here we are, and we gotta be ready to go full speed ahead and beat them to it. So, know that the people who keep you busy have a reason for that, unless they are moving into the area of finding a solution, not a guessing game, not attacking each other. Where to begin? Well, I have posted 3 different images about why Katie Proudfoot may have chosen to only share old pictures. When at the Texas Roadhouse, she took new ones. And the 3 images are from a Twitter friend of mine. And I credited her. And right before I sent her a message and said, okay, how you want me to credit you by your name or how? And then she messaged me back eventually and said, no, I don't want you to mention me. So I removed her name. So it was a lot easier when I said credit goes to, then people know this is not from me. I didn't come up with this. Now it looks I did. I did not. And I agree with what I've been reading, and I've been adding to that. And here I want to add, more than anything, that Katie Proudfoot wants us to remember Sebastian. But she wants us to remember him as the young child that they, in their own minds, did not have a problem with. Back then, from when the pictures were taken, and from what I understand, they were all taken from a location where they lived before the current one. I guess when they moved to that one, after that there was no more happy anything. But he was a child there. He was, I guess, easy to scare and to control. He didn't talk back. He didn't fight back. He was probably scared of Chris Proudfoot back then. But things were apparently a lot better. They looked a lot happier and they looked a lot better. And Sebastian didn't look as nervous and as frightened as he did in recent, the Texas Roadhouse video. And I will say it to you how I see it, because there's so much misinformation, disinformation out there. And if I'm wrong, so be it. Because I think Sebastian looked nervous. And I think he became nervous because he sensed something from Katie. Katie was shifty. No, she did not look for green hoodie or any of this nonsense. Don't believe any of this stuff. Again, you know, if somebody tries to tell you Sebastian is still alive and let's look at this and look at this and look at that, well, why are they saying that? I don't have an agenda. The only rules I have are the rules of statement analysis. That's how I'm going to proceed. So Katie said to us they had a really good day, and I believe her, and a pretty good evening as well. No, the decline is noted. She can no longer say a good evening even. Not a really good evening, not even a good evening, a pretty good evening. She is telling us there was a major decline. And from that moment on there was no more we, our or together, which was mentioned 8 or 9 times in the short half of that paragraph I've analyzed the other day. She tells us there was no more we, no more together. It was him and it was me. And he did not want to go to sleep. There was an issue with that. On 3 different occasions, she indicated that. And I have made a video about that. So just in case somebody says, oh, you use number 3. You cannot do that because that's a liar's number. No. There are many times I can count 3. I counted exactly 3 times also that Katie Proudfoot said just. And as soon as she said the word just, you know what? Almost either immediately or almost immediately did Chris Proudfoot take over. That was on 3 different occasions. So yes, people use the number 3 quite frequently when making something up. But if 3 is what you count, then 3 is what it is. When Chris and Katie Proudfoot talk about we love you, we miss you, chances are they are thinking about missing the little boy he once was. Let me say this again. They miss what they consider the good times with him. they do not miss the Sebastian growing up into a young man, which Katie said he deserves to do, right? Because no, they didn't want the person he grew into. He may deserve it, but that is not whom they wanted to have around themselves. They did not want that. So all of the pictures are really like an obituary or a memorial. This is what he once was. They do not want the person he was going to grow into, who can stand up for himself, who can have an issue with things, because of whom Chris Proudfoot was no longer willing to live in that house. Why? Because the abuse he put Sebastian under was going to backfire. Sebastian, his abuse was now being noted. There were going to be more investigations. People were going to ask more questions. He was going to get a lot more capable of expressing things. And things would have probably, well, I don't know how it is in the state of Tennessee, but things would have changed for the better of Sebastian and for the worse of Chris. Which is probably why. By the way, is it true? You guys need to help me out here, because if somebody mentions something about a statement, and I don't care if it's whatever this idiotic life was that they appeared on, I don't care. I will not listen to those. What I will listen to is when somebody gives me a timestamp or a specific clip. But please don't tell me, okay, it's somewhere in this interview, and then it's like 3.5 hours long. Sorry, I cannot do it. But is it true that Chris said the last time he saw Sebastian was February 26th? Or did somebody fabricate that? Did somebody... Well, the other comment I don't even want to get into, but people, if you leave me a comment, it will be so helpful if you give me a reference. I can also look it up. If you say it was in an interview by such and such named such and such, and it was about halfway through, or anything that you can remember, the statement goes something like that. Because sometimes people actually come on here and purposefully they give me a wrong hint. Because what they wanted me to do, to discredit myself, they want me to go on X or somewhere and ask somebody to send me a tape of something completely ridiculous that neither Chris or Katie ever said. So somebody out there is playing extremely dirty, and of course I personally have been able to, there's no danger for me to fall into any of those traps, but it's still pretty amazing how much effort is being made to keep people like me from voicing ourselves. And again, the so-called green team, they are also housing some enemies among them. So the best thing, in my case personally, if somebody asks me what team, I am only on my team. I'm on team statement analysis, not even team statement analysts, because there are many who are, I've talked also about the behavior panel. No, you need to follow the science, and not certain scientists or so-called scientists who you may like. And that's what I have been seeing. I have seen people only in groups. I have seen people support the wrong of those they align themselves with. And I cannot do that. Meaning, if somebody says something that is incorrect, just because you're my friend, I'm not going to go on there and say that you're right. I mean, I am holding back, of course. I don't want I don't want me to be the reason other people notice it when something that you said is incorrect. But this is really a social phenomenon where people do not mind, and I've seen it on every level, and I've seen it on every... I don't do that. I cannot do it. And I don't want to do it. Sometimes I want to do it, but I can't do it. I want to help certain people, but you know what? You need to be careful not to repeat misinformation or disinformation. Never to share something unless you actually have vetted it or have become convinced of it for very specific reasons. Here is one example about Seth Rogers. Katie Proudfoot stated that he was abusive towards her and Sebastian. Is that true? I don't know. I don't know. What I think, doesn't matter what I think, because I don't know. I was not there. That was, what, during a custody battle or during the divorce proceedings that she said these things? And a lot of people will now say, I can't believe he's talking about this. He should shut up about this, because obviously Katie's making things up. Well, yes, maybe, and maybe not. Maybe some of it is true, maybe some of it is... But you know what? At this point in time, I do not care. That's the bottom line. I'm not saying, and I'm saying that also because Seth said people shouldn't talk about their belief that Sebastian is deceased. Well, I'm telling you exactly what the statements, the deeper look into the statements of Chris and Katie Proudfoot indicates. And I will continue to do that. I'm not doing that to be mean or to be discouraging. I'm going to say it like it is. Otherwise, I will say absolutely nothing. I am not going to use, what seems to be a growing presence to be flaky or support somebody who doesn't say the whole truth. I tell you guys how it is. And I tell you also, the hope is what keeps him alive. Hope keeps him going. And about sociopaths, I'm trying to remember, I wrote too much on X today. So much stuff that I actually wanted to keep to myself, to keep for my videos. But a sociopathic behavior, there are two factors that play into the resentment sociopaths have towards society in general. Number one is society didn't help them when they were young, empathetic, helpless, sensitive children who got deeply wounded. So they detest society in part because of this. And I have stated before, I will talk more about that in other videos, including actually a study I have written 10 years ago with the Charles University in Prague about where that particular study had to do with blood types and sociopathy, and it has led me towards more deeper research into sociopathy, and it's been published in the major medical scientific journals. I will go a little bit more into this at one point, but the second part of the sociopath's problem with society is that they're highly intuitive, and in their opinion, and their deep opinion, the majority of people is just idiotic, stupid, easy to manipulate. So that's part of the thing where duping delight kicks in. Katie Proudfoot has it very much. Duping delight can also be from those who are not sociopathic, simply because they feel like they've gotten away with something. Example, John Benet's brother, Burke. And I don't care, I told you guys already, the behavioral panel and Dr. Phil, well, you know what? Whatever their so-called opinions are, or whatever they claim to think, pay no attention to that. I don't care if it's about summer wells or what it is about. Either you keep it straight or you flake around. So flaking around includes all of this talk about that PI and things that are not important whatsoever. At least don't bother people who are actually trying their best to stay on track and figure out what happened. Don't bother them with, look at what this person or that person. I am really, well, I think that's the last time I'm going to say it. I will just cut off I muted a lot of people on X. I had to do it because all they do is talk about meaningless stuff. And I strongly suggest you guys do the same thing. When you mute them, they don't know that you're muting them. And you will be able to see a lot higher quality posts from people who are around, but you may have not noticed them before simply because what they wrote has been so overshadowed by meaningless things. So Seth, whatever you think about him, was he a good guy or a bad guy? Is he good? Seth misses his son. Seth is sincerely searching for him. Seth had nothing to do with the disappearance. And most of all, Seth has absolutely no idea what happened to his son. And when you look at the statements and the brief analysis of mine, you will realize that there is no need to look at him, and we're not looking at the allegations. We are only looking at allegations having to do with whatever the reason may be that Sebastian Rogers cannot be found at this time. That's our only priority, people. So let's move to another ridiculous subject matter. What is the reward money? Is it $347,000 or is it $50,000? Which is it? Because strangely, the PI I personally don't even think that he's being paid by Chris and Katie. I think he just inserted himself into this case for whatever reasons, to get publicity, to get known as one of America's finest. And he's probably doing it for free. He's volunteering. He actually indicated such a thing, from what I recall, that this is voluntary. So he's not hired. But if he speaks on their behalf, why would he say to us that this is fake? Why would he say that to us? I think it doesn't even matter who put up or who stated there's 347,000. He, that PI, wants to prove that this is not real. And what is he telling us? Basically, let's picture this for a minute. He's basically saying, okay, do not expect that money, please. What does it really tell us? It tells us don't worry about it. Don't strain yourself. Don't try too hard to find out what happened to Sebastian. Right? Imagine your child is missing and somebody says, I'm going to offer you $30 million to whoever finds him. And in the back of your mind, you're looking at this person and say, I don't think he's going to pay that. Is that what you're going to focus on and going to say to the whole world? Are you going to say, no, to all of you who are ready to do something and get my son back? No. I need to make sure everybody understands. Sorry. You will not get that money. I think that you will agree with me that what you would do in that situation is run with it. Because it is not your responsibility. If somebody puts that up or says, I put up this kind of money and he doesn't later pay after your son is returned, who cares? Let them take it up with the people who made the promise. But I also think people can make promises because they don't think anything will happen and they don't expect anything. But if you were actually working for innocent people, you would not do that. You would say, okay, well, I thought it was 50, well, the FBI offered 50. Okay, we got that. Now you can mention that. You can actually mention that for the people who may have doubts about the 347, to make sure people understand at least there will be guaranteed $50,000 for whoever helps find Sebastian Rades. But you would not discredit, at least not with that much energy, that money offered. Whether anybody actually will want to pay or not. When you look at the pictures and now the many other images, yeah, they're all from so-called happier times. And this is just a quick video I felt like I needed to make, because I will from now on post images here, because it seems to me whenever I'm on Twitter, a lot of the people that post on Twitter get extremely sidetracked. And with that, they're sidetracking me as well. And while they can be serious here and there, they always go back to absolute garbage. They spend 3-4 hours a day listening to things that are worthless. Doesn't matter whose side they are on. If they're on the side of Seth or if they're on the side of the PI. Because what they do is make things up to keep people listening longer and longer and longer. And so far I have not seen any kind of anything valuable from these channels. So I think that what I'm going to do is sort of move my presence simply here to YouTube, where it's easier for me to, yeah, it's just a better setup where I don't get tagged into, I don't, where people can have actually real conversations here. I will also, I love the chat here too, the live chat, whenever there's I'm premiering a video. And so I will, give me feedback also. What do you guys prefer? Maybe, by the way, I don't offer classes yet. Maybe I will do that in the future. Maybe I will find a way to do that here on YouTube. As always, you can give me suggestions. Give me suggestions. Tell me what you have learned, or what you want to learn more about, or what you want to have cleared up. I will integrate these things into my future videos, because now there are 2 videos that I believe everybody should watch before they make up their mind about what happened. And don't believe anything because I say it. In those videos I am explaining exactly how I have come to my conclusions. And the one is called Who Caused Sebastian Rades' Disappearance, and the other one is Katie Proudfoot, Fabricator of Realities. Realities in so-called realities. These are the 2 videos. I guess I need to highlight them, or find a better way to highlight them here. These are the 2 videos I think everybody should watch. And the one about who caused the disappearance was my first real video here on this channel. Real video. And the other one was my last one before this one. And it's been a warm-up phase for me, where I realize now is a good time for me to actually say things I wanted to say almost a year ago. And now we should go ahead and examine what really happened. And I think it'll be surprising to many of you, far removed from what most people think. Yes, it is understandable that people want to see not extreme penalties, but see real penalties here. So I don't think it was premeditation. I understand that that can be a motivator, that people want premeditation to be the case, to make sure the penalty sticks. But I also believe in following the law and challenging the law if necessary. But I am not going to say I think there was premeditation just because I want somebody to have a stiff sentence. I cannot do that. I don't want to do that. And it's not because I think I'm better, it's because it just takes too much energy for me to please people and become a candle in the wind when you already have the strong foundation of statement analysis. I think she didn't plan for it, but there's a very fine line. Like I say, when you grow so cold and become so indifferent towards your child's life that you pump him so full of sleep aid, then maybe negligent homicide is not enough. You see where I'm going with that? Oh, by the way, all of this is my opinion only. I'm trying my best to let you know how I formed it. Do not let me make up your mind for you. Make up your own mind based on examining what I have pointed out, and then it is up to you to come to your very own conclusions. I thank you all for watching me, and let me know what else you would like me to make videos about. If you send something my way or alert me of a statement that was made, please give me a hint where I can find it. Of course, the best thing would be to just link to it, but I also want to say, those of you I have asked in chat, oh wow, can you please send me a link? Can you please I will do it too. When trust me, when I don't have anything on my plate, immediately I remember certain things and I know how to find things on my own. So I do not want you to feel obligated to do anything. Don't take time out of your life, out of your busy life, to do anything like that, to do anything for me, unless you want to, unless you feel like it. Of course, if you say, oh, I want to listen to Granny or whatever these people's names are, or such and such, for 3.5, yeah, okay, go find, if you help me, come on. At least it'll be a little bit more, So everybody's very different, so I understand that some of you have really busy lives, but there are others but they're not the ones who listen to me, or they're at least a lot less likely to listen to me. So I have said what I had to say, people. You can read the post with the comments from my friend who has shared these images with me, where she has compiled her thoughts, because they don't post any of the recent pictures with Sebastian. They don't want to. When Katie says, I want to smell him, and then she gets that look in her face, that could indicate how they feel about Sebastian now, that he's getting older. When he was a young kid, I guess things were a lot better. I don't know exactly when the problems began with the CPS showing up. I don't know. Do you guys have any more information? And yes, I'm lacking a lot of information that I don't try to find, because I want to focus on the statements alone. But when there is something that I can go by that is for certain, that can be very helpful. When exactly did the CPS cases start? Was it during COVID? Probably, right? Because that's when Sebastian, now he would be 16, so COVID started, what, 5 years ago? When he was 11? Yeah, I would say during COVID. And maybe was he isolated before? Was he where they lived before? How were things? Because a lot of the neighbors, according to Barbie, didn't even know Sebastian existed. They didn't know a 15-year-old boy was living in that house. He never saw him anywhere. The images that you have of him riding the bike and Chris, that was from the previous location, right? From what I understand. When they moved into this nicer neighborhood, it doesn't mean that Sebastian's life became nicer. It may have become a lot more isolated. Maybe Chris Proudfoot didn't want to be seen with Sebastian. That is the other thing. And when he talks about Sebastian can even beat grown adults in chess, well, maybe he was talking about himself. But you know what? It didn't matter how smart Sebastian was, because at home he didn't have the physical power to stand up to Chris. And his mother was unwilling to stand up to Chris. As a matter of fact, Chris actually offered to get out of there. But Katie Proudfoot didn't want that. Abandonment issues, that's what I have also been talking about with some of you in private. That Katie Proudfoot always says, my son, my husband. It's self-reassurance. They belong to her. And even though there is distancing language from Sebastian, these abandonment issues can create patterns within us which lead to habitual usage of these terms. My son, my husband. So the fear of her losing Chris most definitely contributed, in my opinion, to her not caring how much she pilled her son up. Which is why Chris cannot talk about, or claims he cannot talk about, that specific night. You see, while Katie is a wonderful fabricator, talented fabricator of realities, a horrible performer, but she is a great scriptwriter, in my opinion. Chris, on the other hand, when he comes up with his own ideas, it's foot in the mouth immediately. Everything he comes up with himself, all of the most blatant statement, they're from him. That's when he gets too much of a high from performing a script that he thinks is genius. Katie's script. So all of a sudden, he realizes people are falling for it and thinks, wow, this is airtight, man. You know why? Because Katie cannot perform it. Katie cannot perform it because Katie herself is so intuitive. She would be able to see right through that if it was somebody else saying this. The way I look through it without applying statement analysis, which is what has drawn me towards this specific case, even though I don't actively work on it. And I'm glad it did. And I think it's a wonderful, amazing tool for learning and for advancing both. Because on the one hand, Katie's analyses require advanced statement analysis that is rarely taught. And Chris's is the most basic one, except when he speaks from script. Chris is the most blatant one And he is the performer, and he can do it because he himself would never see through it. When you see the blatant ones he comes up with, that's the level of thinking he is capable of. So when he talks, and he talks about no evidence left behind whatsoever, I think he's referring to his wife. And he includes himself in this, because it wasn't Sebastian. Sebastian couldn't have walked out of that house and walked out of this neighborhood. He's proud to be a part of a team that is able to accomplish something, but he doesn't realize that while he is doing that, he is the one giving away everything. If it wasn't for Chris, if he had been quiet from the beginning, I would still be very certain whom to point the finger at and whom to look deeper at. But the vast amount of people that can tell there's something wrong with them, they wouldn't. I don't think they would. They may look at Katie Proudfoot like the grieving mother, but you see, that's a problem. While Katie picked him to present her script, which is really good, Chris could not shut up. Chris could not limit himself to the script, and that is what gave him away. That's what makes it more than obvious to the majority of people that Sebastian did not walk out as they tried to tell it to us. So guys, I hope that some of the things I've said are clearer, and I want you to continue to let me know how can I help everybody gain more of an insight into statement analysis, how to introduce you into it to where as I've said, the mandatory thing is stay away from rumors and nonsense. If you don't do it, you're not going to be able to get it. I am not listening to any nonsense. I don't argue about nonsense, because if I do, I will not be able to go from that and suddenly clear my mind immediately and analyze what people are really saying. It's not possible. Maybe for some people it is, but not for me. And I have seen that some of you have the moments where you are really analytical, and then you're talking about some complete BS. And so the prerequisite is that you have to isolate yourself from that. So the best thing, actually, how I learned statement analysis was not by just transcribing anything myself. It was by simply having it in writing. Sometimes not even knowing who wrote it. Not knowing what the purpose is. Flagging things. Later, getting a few facts in. Comparing it. Statement analysis is that simple, and it is that I forgot the specific word for it. That unemotional. In time it becomes second nature, and you get to realize intuitively what to look at, and an analysis begins immediately in your head. When somebody talks to me and the person is deceptive, immediately the red flags come to me. That's not something where I have to sit down and say, wait a minute, say it again, man, I want to transcribe it and see it. No, it's just bam, it just comes to you. So let me know what I can do, but promise me, you have to take the step to where you protect your sensibilities. You have to protect your energy and your intuition, and you cannot say, okay, what is Cleophas or whoever that one of you used. What is Cleophas? Have you seen this person? Oh my God, you see, here's the thing. Here, On my YouTube channel, I don't see any of these comments. I see them on X all the time. I see that mental pollution going on. And if you connect with people that you see on my channel. Because if there's anything I can do, it is to bring the right people together who actually want answers and who are sick, disgusted, and tired of people pretending to care about Sebastian, and only because they say, I pray for him, he has a green heart, and then they only go about their nonsense and their gossiping and attacking people, the war of the mice, attacking people who are not important in general or period. So if you share something, share the truth and let the truth stand on its own. Because if you beat a mouse, if you kill a mouse, you're still, what, no more than a cat? Something like that. Okay, I thank you guys for watching. I'm looking forward to your comments. Be brutally honest with me and let me know what I can do to give you the right start into analyzing whatever may come your way in the future. Thank you for watching.